Welcome, viewers from across the world. Before we begin this prophetic journey through Israel, we'd love to know, from where are you watching this revelation unfold? Share your city in the comments below. This is a historic moment, and we want to see how the entire world is witnessing what's happening in Israel right now. The air in Jerusalem carries whispers of ancient days. Thousands gather at the Western Wall, their prayers rising like incense toward heaven. The cobblestone streets bear the weight of countless pilgrims, their faces etched with anticipation. Some have traveled across oceans, others across deserts. They come bearing flags of distant nations, yet their hearts beat as one. The old city pulsates with an energy unlike any other day. Street vendors pause, their eyes drawn to the growing crowds. Even the birds seem to circle with purpose today. Families clutch hands tightly, knowing they stand on the threshold of history. The morning sun casts golden hues across the Temple Mount, illuminating what many believe is no ordinary gathering. This is not simply a tourist attraction or religious site. This is the stage where prophecy meets reality. Elderly men, with tears streaming down weathered cheeks, stand beside young children whose eyes widen at the spectacle. Media crews position their cameras, sensing something noteworthy is unfolding. The anticipation is palpable, electric, as if the very stones could speak of what is about to transpire. The atmosphere thickens with expectancy as more arrive by the minute, drawn by an invisible yet irresistible pull that transcends logical explanation. Military personnel maintain vigilant watch, their trained eyes scanning the growing assembly while their hearts sense they guard more than a mere gathering. Tourists who came for sightseeing find themselves caught in currents of destiny they hadn't anticipated. The silence breaks with a voice that carries across the plaza. "Hear, O Israel!" The words reverberate against ancient walls that have witnessed empires rise and fall. A leader steps forward, his traditional garments flowing in the gentle breeze. His hands lift toward the heavens in a gesture recognized across millennia. "This day was foretold," he declares, his voice steady yet charged with emotion. The crowd stills, hanging on every word. What our ancestors only dreamed of seeing, we now witness with our own eyes. Smartphones rise to capture the moment, but many simply close their eyes, wanting to absorb the significance through their other senses. This is not merely a ceremonial gathering. This is the fulfillment of words written thousands of years ago. The announcement continues, words carefully chosen to honor both tradition and the extraordinary present moment. The nations have gathered, just as the prophets said they would. Time seems suspended as the weight of the declaration settles upon the assembly. What was written on ancient scrolls now unfolds in living color before a watching world. The pronouncement bridges past and present, scripture and newspaper headlines, ancient prophecy and modern reality. Even the skeptics among the crowd feel something stir within them, a recognition that transcends intellectual barriers. The call echoes not just across the plaza, but across centuries, binding generations in a single moment of revelation. Today, the words of our prophets stand vindicated before all nations, the voice continues, as heads nod in solemn agreement. The declaration is not made with political posturing, but with the quiet confidence of truth finally manifest. Pages of sacred texts come alive today. The prophets spoke of this, a time when the scattered would be gathered, when the desert would bloom, when ancient promises would find fulfillment. Isaiah's words echo across centuries. "I will bring your descendants from the east and gather you from the west." Jeremiah's prophecy materializes before our eyes. "They shall come with weeping, and with supplications I will lead them." Ezekiel's vision of dry bones becoming an exceedingly great army now walks the streets of Jerusalem. What skeptics dismissed as poetic metaphor stands vindicated in flesh and blood. The restoration of a people to their ancestral homeland defies statistical probability. Their preservation through centuries of persecution contradicts historical patterns. Their revival of a nearly extinct language reverses linguistic inevitability. Their transformation of barren wasteland into productive fields challenges agricultural norms. The prophetic timeline unfolds with precision that confounds coincidence. The gathering from north, south, east, and west fulfills geographic specificity written millennia ago. The timing aligns with cosmic signs that were foretold. Ancient words describing modern events with uncanny accuracy now materialize before a watching world. The prophets who once walked these same streets, who climbed these same hills, who looked toward the same horizons, spoke of this very day. Amos foretold agricultural abundance in once barren lands. Zechariah described Jerusalem becoming central to world affairs again. Daniel's timeline points precisely to current days. Hosea predicted a people returning to their ancient heritage after long separation. Micah's prophecies concerning Jerusalem's prominence now manifest in geopolitical realities. Each prophet contributed pieces to a puzzle that now assembles before our eyes with supernatural precision. This is happening now, not in dusty history books or faded manuscripts. The prophecy breathes and moves in this very moment. Families who survived persecution now plant olive trees in reclaimed soil. Children whose grandparents knew only exile now play in parks under Jerusalem's sun. The Hebrew language, once confined to prayer books, now fills marketplaces and university lecture halls. What was written is now lived. What was promised is now possessed. The present tense of prophecy unfolds before our eyes. Traffic stops as pedestrians pause to witness what transpires. Shopkeepers step outside their stores, sensing the historical significance. Tour guides fall silent, allowing the moment to speak for itself. Archaeologists working nearby lay down their tools, realizing they witness living history. The distinction between past and present blurs as ancient words materialize in contemporary form. The prophecies aren't merely being fulfilled, they're being inhabited, embodied by real people in real time. This isn't theoretical theology, but experiential reality. Cameras capture what skeptics once deemed impossible. The world watches as ink on parchment becomes flesh and blood. Scientists who excavate artifacts of ancient Israel now observe living artifacts of prophetic fulfillment. Agricultural experts who study how deserts bloom acknowledge the miracle of timing. Military analysts who calculate strategic disadvantages marvel at improbable survival. Linguistic scholars who document dead language revivals recognize the unprecedented nature of Hebrew's resurrection. What happens today defies rational explanation, yet unfolds with empirical evidence. The supernatural intersects with natural in ways that challenge purely materialistic worldviews. Listen to the voices that rise from the gathering. "We have waited for this moment for generations," whispers an elderly woman, clutching a photograph of relatives lost decades ago. A family of Ethiopian Jews stands nearby, their journey from persecution to promise now complete. "We walked through deserts to reach this place," one man explains, his eyes reflecting both past hardships and present wonder. Russian immigrants speak of hidden prayers uttered during years of oppression. American Jews describe leaving comfort to embrace ancient heritage. French families recount fleeing rising threats to find refuge in their ancestral homeland. Argentinian Jews tell of crossing oceans to reconnect with biblical roots. A Holocaust survivor, numbers still visible on her arm, simply weeps. "My grandparents prayed for this," says a young Israeli soldier. "They never lived to see it." Children too young to understand history's weight still sense the moment's gravity. "We are home," says a young woman who arrived just yesterday. "Finally, after all these centuries, we are home." The voices blend into a tapestry of testimony, each thread unique yet part of the same prophetic pattern. A Yemenite family recalls the dangerous nighttime exodus that brought them home. An elderly man from Morocco recounts how his community preserved ancient traditions through centuries in North Africa. A professor from Hungary explains how university colleagues mocked his decision to emigrate. A doctor from Brazil describes the inexplicable pull she felt toward this land. A tech entrepreneur from California speaks of trading Silicon Valley success for prophetic purpose. Each story adds texture and depth to the living tapestry of return and restoration. Each individual journey converges in this moment of collective destiny. The sound pierces the air, ancient and primal. The shofar's blast cuts through modern noise, silencing conversations and stilling movements. The ram's horn curves upward, its polished surface catching sunlight as the designated blower fills his lungs. The first Takaya resonates across the Western Wall Plaza, a long, sustained note that seems to penetrate stone and soul alike. The Shevarim follows, 3 broken notes that speak of brokenness and longing. Then comes the Teruah, 9 staccato blasts that signal alarm and awakening. Finally, the Tekiah Gedolah, the great blast that stretches beyond what seems humanly possible, holding the note until breath itself surrenders to significance. Some in the crowd instinctively cover their eyes. Others reach toward heaven. The sound carries beyond physical boundaries, resonating in places that transcend geography. This is not merely cultural tradition or religious ritual. This is the sound that greeted kings and announced jubilees. This is the call that toppled walls and gathered scattered tribes. This is the noise that Scripture says will herald ultimate restoration. As the final note lingers, silence falls. A pregnant pause between what was written and what is now witnessed. The shofar speaks a language older than words, communicating what syllables cannot contain. Its voice has announced sacred moments since Moses received tablets of stone. Its cry has summoned Israel to solemn assembly through millennia of observance. Its sound has marked transitions between common time and holy time. Today, its blast marks another sacred threshold, another divine moment when heaven touches earth. Musicians with modern instruments stand silenced by the ancient simplicity of the ram's horn. Its unaltered, unenhanced, unelectrified voice carries more power than amplified sound systems. In its primal tone, contemporary and ancient listeners find common ground across millennia. The stones beneath their feet hold memories of ancient days. These same courtyards witness Solomon's wisdom and Nehemiah's rebuilding. These pathways felt the sandals of prophets and kings. This ground absorbed tears of exile and celebration of return. The air still carries echoes of David's psalms and priests' blessings. The gathered stand where Romans destroyed and Crusaders conquered, where Ottomans ruled and British governed. This soil remembers countless prayers uttered through centuries of longing. The Western Wall's massive stones, some weighing 40 tons, have stood as silent witnesses through 2 millennia of history. The menorah's light, extinguished long ago, now symbolically reignites in the modern state. Ancient festivals, observed continuously for 3,000 years, maintain unbroken connection to biblical commands. Sacred texts, preserved through unimaginable circumstances, still guide contemporary life. The Hebrew language of Abraham and Moses now fuels innovation in medicine and technology. What other nation has maintained such continuity despite dispersion? What other people has preserved identity without homeland for centuries? What other ancient promise finds such precise modern fulfillment? The thread connecting past to present remains unbroken, a historical phenomenon defying explanation. Archaeologists continue uncovering physical evidence that confirms biblical narratives with each new dig. Pottery fragments, ancient coins, royal seals and building foundations validate scriptural accounts previously dismissed as myth. The very stones cry out in confirmation of what was written. The city has witnessed 27 sieges and countless rulers. It has been destroyed and rebuilt, conquered and liberated, yet maintains unbroken spiritual significance across faiths and cultures. Its centrality to human history defies its modest size and limited natural resources. Something beyond strategic value or economic importance draws humanity's attention to this place. Feel the spiritual weight that descends upon this gathering. Something beyond physical explanation transpires here. Those present sense it, a holy hush that transcends religious divisions. Christians who know their Bible recognize prophecy unfolding. Jews who know their Torah witness promises materializing. Even secular observers acknowledge the historical anomaly they witness. Something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere over Jerusalem today. The city that has known more prayers than any place on earth trembles with significance. The convergence of scripture, history, and current events creates a moment pregnant with destiny. Even hardened journalists find themselves moved by what they document. Military personnel tasked with security stand straighter, sensing they guard more than mere crowds. The spiritual implications extend beyond any single faith tradition. This is not merely religious sentiment, but cosmic alignment. The creator of history appears to be writing its culmination. The author of prophecy seems to be completing narrative arcs begun millennia ago. Heaven and earth intersect in ways that transcend theological frameworks. The gathered sense they participate in something far greater than themselves, a divine storyline reaching its climactic chapters. Muslims on the Temple Mount pause in their own devotions, sensing something significant transpires beyond explanations within their tradition. Secular Israelis find themselves drawn to this gathering despite previous disinterest in religious matters. Foreign diplomats observe with professional detachment, yet feel personal impact they struggle to articulate in official reports. Something transcendent occurs, something that defies containment within any single religious system or interpretive framework. The moment speaks across doctrinal divides to something more fundamental in human consciousness. What does this moment signify? Nations watch with curiosity and concern as ancient words materialize in modern headlines. Geopolitical analysts struggle to explain developments that defy strategic logic. How does a tiny nation, smaller than New Jersey, command global attention? Why do events in this sliver of Middle Eastern land affect world markets and international relations? The prophetic significance cannot be dismissed by rational minds seeking honest answers. The precision of fulfillment challenges coincidence as an explanation. The timing aligns with celestial patterns described in ancient texts. The convergence of multiple prophecies happening simultaneously defies statistical probability. The restored nation stands as a signpost to something beyond itself. This is not merely about regional politics or religious tradition. This is about divine faithfulness to sworn covenants. This is about promises made to Abraham, finding fulfillment in his descendants. This is about words written by Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, proving trustworthy across millennia. This moment serves as a cosmic timepiece, marking humanity's position on the prophetic calendar. Those with eyes to see recognize the significance of what transpires here today. Economists cannot explain Israel's disproportionate impact on global innovation. Sociologists cannot account for the preservation of Jewish identity through unparalleled persecution. Military experts cannot rationalize survival against overwhelming odds in multiple existential conflicts. Agricultural scientists marvel at transformation of wasteland into productive fields. The convergence of improbabilities points toward purposeful design rather than random chance. The nation exists as living testimony to supernatural intervention in human history. What unfolds here serves as both fulfillment and harbinger, both confirmation and anticipation. Yet this is not the conclusion of the story. This gathering, significant as it is, represents but one chapter in an unfolding narrative. What transpires today points toward greater fulfillment still to come. The prophets spoke not only of physical restoration, but spiritual awakening. They described not merely national rebirth, but global transformation. Today's events serve as signposts, directing attention toward a horizon still approaching. The gathered sense their part in a continuing story that preceded them and will extend beyond them. Children present will one day tell their grandchildren, "I was there when." Future generations will mark this moment as pivotal in the prophetic timeline. The shofar's blast today heralds greater announcements still to come. The prayers ascending now anticipate more complete answers in days ahead. Scripture speaks of both partial and complete restoration, both initial and ultimate fulfillment. What we witness now confirms the reliability of what remains to be fulfilled. The gathered stand between what has been accomplished and what has been promised. Like mountain climbers who reach one significant peak only to see higher summits beyond, today's milestone reveals both achievement and anticipation. The prophetic narrative continues its inexorable progression toward divine conclusion. Zechariah spoke of a day when all nations would come to Jerusalem. Isaiah described an era when weapons would transform into agricultural tools. Jeremiah foresaw a time when divine law would be written on human hearts rather than stone tablets. Micah anticipated a period when justice would flow like water through the land. Today's fulfillment serves as earnest of greater things to come. The partial validates the eventual. The initial confirms the ultimate. What we witness now functions as divine signature, guaranteeing future promises. The world watches with diverse reactions. News outlets from Tokyo to Toronto broadcast images of what transpires in Jerusalem today. Social media platforms light up with commentary from every continent. Some view these events through political lenses, missing spiritual dimensions. Others recognize prophetic significance but disagree on interpretations. Arab nations watch closely, their own sacred texts intersecting with this story. European leaders consider implications for international relations. Asian observers note parallels with their own ancient prophecies. African Christians see connections to their understanding of biblical promises. The global Jewish diaspora follows developments with personal investment. Academics debate historical context, while religious leaders cite sacred texts. Some mock what they cannot explain, others stand in reverent awe. Conspiracy theorists spin elaborate scenarios, while pragmatists seek practical implications. Through satellite technology and internet connections, Perth and Paris, Buenos Aires and Beijing, Cape Town and Chicago, all witness simultaneously what prophets once could only describe in future tense. The world may interpret differently, but none can deny that something remarkable unfolds in this ancient city today. University classrooms, from Oxford to Stanford, analyze implications across disciplines. Theological seminaries across denominational lines reassess eschatological frameworks. Political think tanks recalculate strategic projections based on unfolding realities. What happens in Jerusalem today affects currency markets in ways economists struggle to explain. Religious pilgrims from unexpected sources, Inuit communities, Pacific Islands, remote Himalayan villages, arrive with stories of dreams and visions that led them here for this moment. The global nature of what transpires transcends normal patterns of information dissemination and influence, and so the story continues, not concluding but unfolding. What was written millennia ago materializes before our eyes. What was promised to ancestors manifests for descendants. The gathered disperse slowly, reluctant to leave such sacred space and time. They carry with them not just memories, but mission, to bear witness to what they've seen and heard. The shofar's echo still resonates in their hearts as Jerusalem's stones absorb yet another historic moment. The sun sets on this significant day, but the prophetic timeline advances toward its ultimate fulfillment. The ancient and modern continue their mysterious dance in this land of promise. Those who witness today's events sense they've participated in something transcending ordinary experience. They've stood at the intersection of divine declaration and human history. They've watched ink on parchment become living reality. They've heard ancient words find contemporary voice. As night falls over Jerusalem, stars appear above the city that has captured heaven's attention across centuries. The same constellations that guided Abraham now shine upon those who bear his covenant. Tomorrow will bring new headlines, but the prophetic narrative remains unchanged. What was foretold continues to unfold with divine precision, and the world continues to watch Jerusalem just as the prophets said it would. They leave changed, transformed by participation in sacred history. Some depart committed to deeper study of prophetic texts. Others leave determined to align their lives with divine purposes they now recognize more clearly. Many exit with renewed hope in divine faithfulness across generations. All leave knowing they've witnessed something their ancestors longed to see. As they scatter to distant lands, they carry Jerusalem in their hearts, not just as memory but as living hope. The day concludes, but the prophetic story continues its inexorable progression toward divine fulfillment. One day, one gathering, one moment of revelation at a time.